how do we make pest control easier for PCOs?
Obviously, a little biased, but I'm fully bought into the strategy.
Marshall Gaster is the head of marketing for pest control for Syngenta US Professional Pest Management. He's been with Syngenta for 20 plus years. He started out in supply chain, planning import, exports, and logistics, and moved to commercial process support. He repented of his sins and moved into Syngenta Professional Solutions.
And as their business grows and scales, there are some things that become more efficient, and there are some things that become less efficient.
How would the rebate program work for like a smaller PCO?
The perception that it's only for like larger companies, it always comes up. There's a lot that I've never heard of it.
When you're building your pest control company, it's not only about running a tight ship, it's about running a smart ship.
You can be leaking a lot and not really realize it.
Welcome to the Bug Bucks Podcast, a podcast designed to help you become a bug money millionaire. Today's episode is brought to you by Bug Bucks Plus, the #1 training and education platform designed to help you build and scale your pest control company. I'm your host, Eric Bassett. And of course, across from me over in the Bug Bucks Plus studio, my co-host, Jake Claus. What's up, dude?
What's up, Eric and my fellow Bug Bucksers?
Dude, I am super excited for the episode today. We have an amazing guest, but before we bring them on, just have some reminders for everybody listening. The best way to receive new episodes is by subscribing to our show on your preferred podcast platform like Apple, YouTube, Audible, or Spotify. If you love the show, please leave us a rating and a review. Make sure to check out our Facebook group, Bug Bucks Plus. That is BUGBUX Plus. We have the owners only group that has over 4,700 other pest control owners waiting to connect with you and share their thoughts. We also have the Bug Bucks Pest Pros group for non-owner team members designed to help them develop in their roles. Joining one of the groups is the best way to connect with us, share your feedback on our show, and have your questions highlighted and discussed here on the podcast. So make sure you find us on Facebook and join one of those groups. Jake, tell us about our guest today, dude.
Dude, are you ready for this? Okay, all right. Well, today I'm going to put my readers on so that I can actually get all this correct. So today's guest, we have Marshall Gaster. Marshall currently is the head of marketing for pest control for Syngenta US Professional Pest Management. He's been with Syngenta for 20 plus years. The guy's the man. Listen to this. He started out in supply chain, planning import, exports, and logistics for Syngenta, then moved to commercial process support, where he was doing marketing and sales on the ag side. Am I getting all this right? Mm-hmm. All right. In 2014, he repented of his sins and moved into Syngenta Professional Solutions for pest control. That's turf and ornamental pest control solutions. Then he ran customer service for 5 years. And he just threw that out there. I ran customer service for 5 years. Oh, just 5 years, huh? Like it was nothing. He's from Walburg, North Carolina. He's married to a woman who is way out of his league. He's got 3 kids, been married for 13 years. He loves woodworking, farm carpentry, and he lives... did I mention you're from North Carolina?
You did.
Okay,
yeah.
So he lives on an old tobacco farm. I've just learned it's tobacco.
Yeah, when you're from North Carolina, you got to say it that way.
Tobacco,
right?
yeah.
Right.
Tobacco, yeah. Yep. He also loves pina coladas and getting caught in the rain. And Marshall, did I miss anything?
I don't think so. I'm not sure that last part was on there.
No, I just added that in there.
We can all agree.
Well, I can read Marshall's mind. I know what he's into. Yeah. All right. How did I do?
You did all, I mean, so like, back in the day on the radio programs, right? It was like long time listener, first time caller, right? So it's like long time listener, first time sitting here. And I feel like I'm not worthy because I'm sitting here like in Eric's seat.
Oh, stop.
So
Go on. Okay, no, keep going. Keep it coming.
So yeah, I'm just keeping it warm for you for the next time you're up here. So yeah.
Awesome.
So,
yeah. Well, this is a big, on the podcast that we just released this morning, Eric and I had a little sob story about missing each other. And so if this seat is going to be filled next to me, what better buns can be filling this seat than Marshall Gaster?
I don't know about that. You can come up with some, I'm sure, but yeah, for sure. Hey,
right.
Also, on the one that y'all released today, y'all were having your whole conversation about Thanksgiving and Christmas songs too, which resonated very much for us. You talked about my wife and kids, so that's definitely about to see. My wife and I are on one side, but the kids are on it's October and the Mariah Carey Christmas songs come up, and so the rule is inside their room, whatever, right? But out. No,
so you don't do the whole. You don't permit the Christmas songs.
No, not until whatever maybe the 29th or whatever it is. Right, the day after Thanksgiving, we put up the tree. The Christmas music comes on then.
Okay.
But yeah. But if especially my Lindsay, my daughter, shoot, we'd have it in August and March and all the time. So yeah.
You know what makes it hard for me is all of the renditions of Last Christmas.
Oh,
when did Last Christmas become a serious Christmas song? Can we all agree on that? I mean, it was a joke when Wham was singing it in the mid 80s, right? And then all of a sudden now you've got Ariana Grande and all these people are singing Last Christmas, and you're like, this can't be serious. We're not serious about this, right?
Everybody can make money for 60 years by releasing a Christmas song, right?
Yep.
And so it's I understand why everybody does. Everybody has a Christmas album because of that, right?
Yep.
So yeah.
NSYNC has a Christmas album. We're crying out loud.
Well, you get all these people who they look at a song like Last Christmas and they're like, this song kind of blows. We should redo it and make it better.
Nope.
And it's like, no. It's not who sang the song. That's not the problem.
It's content over context for that one, truly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah. Marshall, I fully appreciate and sustain your rules in your home to, in your room, you can play whatever music you want. Out in the common areas, not until after Thanksgiving. That's a solid rule.
Yeah, I get outvoted. And, my sticklerness on things like that, I'm pretty lax. I'm pretty easygoing. But we do have a family playlist that's 20 hours of music, and it's been slowly building over the last 10 years or something. And I've put songs on there that I love. And every time, the rule is when we're in the car from home to work, you get one skip. If the kids are with us, you get one skip. And the other second rule is no skipping Huey Lewis.
Oh, okay.
That's the kids know.
Yeah.
You can't skip Huey Lewis, and you get one skip. So the family, they listen to Christmas music whenever they want. But if it's a song that I like on our family playlist, it gets skipped. So I don't know, man. I get overruled.
So does everybody get a skip? So your wife gets a skip, then when your kids gets a skip,
Yes.
You just skip everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
My wife, actually, my wife, she has unlimited skips. So
that's smart. That's smart.
Whatever you want, babe. You don't like The Descendants? That's fine. We can skip that one this time. Yeah. Okay. Well, Marshall, dude, we're super stoked to have you here. Right, Eric?
100%, dude. And, we have had a lot of fantastic guests in the past. But having somebody who has such an intimate connection to what people work with as far as the people in the industry, every single day, we've got hands-on products that Syngenta makes. And we're impacted by decisions that you guys have and policies and just all the value you bring to the industry. So being able to pick the brain of somebody that's in your position, it's not an opportunity that we get a whole lot on the podcast. So thank you so much for being here, dude.
Yeah. Normally in this seat or on that side of the camera, our guests, they're typically people, like Eric said, on this side of the industry. Right. That we're usually interviewing PCOs, or we're interviewing, people that do marketing or whatever. So to have a manufacturer on the show is actually really, really cool. And it's going to give us an opportunity to talk about a lot of stuff that we don't normally do. So, Marshall, just let me ask you, what's on your mind?
It's a very open-ended.
Very open-ended, yeah.
Yeah, well, let me first say, I love listening to your podcast because of that, right? Because, a lot of what people on your side of the business are thinking about isn't about chemicals. Right. I mean, it's not a huge percentage of your spend, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's a good perspective, right? Because, inside the four walls of Syngenta, sometimes you can lose a little bit of focus because of stuff like that, right?
Right, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I learn a lot. I think I learn something about every single time I listened to you. Learned about y'all's Thanksgiving and Christmas stuff most recently.
Dude, that is awesome.
Yeah.
You know, I lose sleep at night sometimes wondering, is the podcast, is it reaching anybody? Is it going anywhere? But to hear Marshall Gaster say that he listens, he likes it, man, that's we can put a little feather in our cap for that one.
Yeah. Small feather.
That's right, just small feather.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So yeah. What's on your mind these days?
It's like everything else. It's a good time of the year. We're wrapping up our year and ending towards the new year. So a lot of focus towards that kind of stuff. Normally when that happens is we focus on Pest Partners. Comes up quite a bit. So Pest Partners 365 is a rebate program that Syngenta kind of came up with about 10 years ago, and it's this year would for 25. So it starts in October, right?
Okay.
So for 25, it will be our 10th year doing the program. And we're really excited about it. We always get excited about it because it's such a different way to do, rebates to help with pricing and stuff like that with PCOs. And so we get really excited about it. This is a great time of the year because this is kind of the qualification period for it.
Sure.
So we're very focused on it, throughout the end of the year and into the early next year, basically up until it becomes game time and y'all have to go and, do major spraying and, and applications and stuff like that during the summer. So,
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, I love that you guys are offering this type of program to PCOs because, and maybe we should start here. I think that a lot of PCOs listening in probably are aware of the program. They probably use it. But for anybody that's listening, give us a quick rundown how the program works.
Yeah, and I think there probably are a lot that do, and there's a lot that have never heard of it. And so I think that's good. So basically it works like this. So it's a year-long rebate savings program, right? But there's a couple of caveats. One, you got to buy so much product to get into the program, and there's 7 months to do that, right? So the program runs from October to September, but the qualification period is in the off season. So from October to April, you have to get $200 of base rebate. So that's not price, right? Because I'm a manufacturer, I don't sell direct, right? So we do a base rebate. So every product that Syngenta has a rebate value. And as long as you get $200 of those rebate values, you're a member, right?
Okay.
So you're in the program, and so there's levels to it, which I'll come back to. But once you're in, you'll get a rebate on your products all year long. And so the stuff that you buy during that first 7 months, you get the exact same rebate when you need to come back and get a little bit more gels in in July or something like that, because
more demand.
Absolutely. Always more demand, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so you get that all year long, and so it locks in for you, and then we send you a rebate check twice a year based off of that.
Man, that's rad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So for a PCO, so let me just make sure I get this right, because Nick, for everybody, well, if you're on the West Coast, I guess Nick Grisafi. He's our guy. So Nick, I remember
Never heard
him.
of him. Nick
Yeah.
Grisafi?
Yeah.
Weird name. Interesting.
Yeah. He's a weird dude.
But he makes awesome jams and jellies.
He makes awesome jams and jellies. Yeah,
you missed out, Eric. They were here today.
Oh,
too.
you guys got some? Oh my gosh, I'm
you
so
have seen
jealous.
It. Okay, this is parenthetical here. So Nick comes and he's got a suitcase, and like in your rifle case, how you have the foam and you cut out the foam, and you got your rifle and your mags and all that stuff. So Nick's got like a suitcase version of that with his jams in like individual little foam cases,
Yeah. That case could fall out of a plane and that jam would have been fine.
Yeah.
I mean, it was amazing to see.
And our other guy, Chris Gigley, he's here too. And so we're sitting here talking. We're like, Nick, dude, we got to get you like a Pelican case or something. Make this legit. And then we look over and Chris is there like taking a picture like this. And we're like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm getting dimensions. So yeah. So it's great. Just one other thing about Nick. So every year we have the Hood River Pest Conference here in Oregon. It's our big regional conference.
Right.
Nick is there every year. It's a big conference. Everybody shows up, and there's always an auction for items, and then the proceeds for that auction go to the Laurel Hansen Foundation for Ant Research. It's a really cool charity thing. So for the last 3 or 4 years, I always bid on Nick's basket, and he's got jams and jellies in there. He's got habanero sauce. He's got honey. He's got all this stuff, and it's like his own honey, right? And he makes his own jams and jellies. So I always bid on his basket, and I think all the other companies around here are picking up on the fact that I am the one that bid. I bid on all the packages. So this last year, I kept getting upbid, and so I'm like, I can't let Nick down, And so I had texted Jana before, hey, we're getting ready for this auction, just heads up, And so anyway, I ended up bidding on Nick's jams and jellies and salsa, and I think I paid. I don't even know if I want to say how much I paid. I think it was like $1,300 for this jam, and then the bid after mine was an all expense paid trip for 2 to Cancun, and that trip went for like $1,200. So I paid $100 more for Nick's basket than I could have gotten a trip for me and my wife to Cancun.
All right, so now here's the marketing spend of that. That it means that his jam and honey is about 90% as good as going to
#worth
right
it,
on a Caribbean trip.
Yeah,
right.
Yep.
So that's how good that stuff is.
Take a guess how long his jams and jellies and habanero salsa and honey lasted at my house.
10 days.
If that.
Yeah.
When I bring home Nick's jam, my kids are waiting for it. Oh, is that Nick's jam? 5 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches later, it's gone. I hardly even get a English muffin with some jam on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. End parenthetical comment. Just got to throw that out there for my man Nick.
Get back on track. Let's go, Jake. Come on.
Okay, where were we?
Rebate program.
Rebate program.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's where we were.
We got one of those too. Yeah.
Thanks. Eric always keeps us on track.
I got you.
Yeah. Okay. No. So I was asking. So if you're like a small PCO, okay, let's say you do 150 to 250 in revenue annually, how would the rebate program work for like a smaller PCO?
So that's probably one of the misconceptions I think of the program. We'll do surveys sometimes just to kind of get a feel. It's a little hard because we know who's in it, but we don't know who's not. I mean, it's figuring out the opinions of people that's not.
Sure, yeah.
So we've done some stuff with, with some of the magazines and things like that. And, the perception that it's only for like larger companies, it always comes up with it. But that's why I think it's important to think about it, like I positioned it, which is that you plan ahead, right? So you're in the off season, you know what you've kind of did this year. And if you're running your business, right, you have a pretty good idea where you want to go, right? Maybe I want to get more into commercial. Maybe I'm wanting to open up another location. Maybe I'm just want to get more dense where I'm at, right?
Yeah.
So when you're kind of doing that process, think about your purchases as well, and then you can lock that in. And so, I can't say exactly what pricing is, but between $2,000 and $3,000 worth, you're in the program, right? And so that's not for the size that you said. That's not.
Yeah. You're going to be spending that anyway.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And so you just go ahead and you just kind of lock that in, right? And then we have certain products that help with cash flow too. So certain products will qualify for what's called summer pay terms, and so you buy it in again October, November, December, whenever you're buying it.
Get the rebate on it.
The rebate will come later. Right.
Yeah. Okay.
But you don't have to pay for it.
But qualifies for the rebate.
It qualifies for the rebate, but you don't have to pay for it until June.
Oh man!
So you could actually buy it in November or December, have that product be spraying with it in March before you've actually and realize revenue on it before you actually have to pay for the product, right? So, we thought about several of the several of the problems that people have, cash flow being one of them, trying to spend that money in the off season. However, we do think it's important to think differently whenever you're doing this. And so, again, planning in the off season, you should know kind of what you're wanting to do, and you ain't got to buy 100%, right? But you get a good swath of it, right? And that'll lock you into various levels in the program. So what I kind of just talked about, a couple of $1,000s gets you at the base level. There's rebates for it. They're good rebates for it. But the more you buy, the more you save, right?
Right, yeah.
So it goes from partner all the way up to diamond. And so the way the levels work, you get a multiplier on top of the rebate.
Okay.
Right. So it's 100% rebate right at the bottom level, but it's 180% rebate at the top level. So you're getting that 100% plus another 80 on.
Man, you're speaking Eric's language right there.
Yeah. I mean, you're salivating over there.
You say multiplier.
Yeah.
Eric's like, what?
I'm realizing how how much rebates affect me as a consumer. When someone says like, hey, the more you buy, the more you save, I'm like, well, I can't lose money on this deal. Like, let's go,
Yeah.
The
cold stuff always works with you, right? So
yeah.
Yep.
And it's cool because we have a lot of PCOs that, they're looking at the profitability of their business. And as their business grows and scales, there are some things that become more efficient and there are some things that become less efficient, especially when you make the jump from being kind of a solo operator where you're kind of wearing all the hats. And then all of a sudden you have to bring in a new technician or an office staff member. And all of a sudden you look at your profitability and you're like, oh my gosh, what's happening? Like, is this sustainable? So it's really cool from a manufacturer standpoint that you guys have a rebate program that rewards volume. It rewards growth. And that seems probably somewhat typical for some places, but people need to know that that's not always the case when you're buying volume. In fact, sometimes the higher the demand for a product, the more it costs.
See what he did there?
Yeah. So, higher than demand, see us.
The higher the demand, see us. You see us.
A little bit of product placement for you. You know what I can say. Every time I say demand, a little demand.
Hunter can add that in post, right?
On our podcast.
Yeah. So kind of 2 points on that, right? So we talked about surveying, right? So we've actually heard that as well, right? People will attribute rebate programs, maybe not just ours, right? But rebate programs and the reinvestment of that into the business, into why they've grown, and getting on like things like top 100 lists and things like that.
Yep.
They've said it's because of the way they've run it this way. And two, like you said, Eric, somebody leaves in June and now I'm trying to figure that out and everything else like that. Do you want to be worried about what's the thing that's on sale this week, right? And so that's I'm obviously a little biased, but I'm fully bought into the strategy when it comes to this, because you're not having to worry about it, because you can just buy what you need when you need and you're getting the same rebate. And you know that up front because you've kind of done that little work. And so we got calculators that help with that too. So you can put all that stuff into our website. It'll spit out the rebate for you
so
and everything else.
It's almost like you've heard everybody's feedback and said, okay, well, let's make this as simple as possible.
Yeah. Saving simple.
Yeah. And that's what that's my mantra, right? If it's too complicated for me to figure out, it's too complicated.
Yeah.
And I don't mean like me as in like the royal me. I mean like me as in Jake Claus. If it's too complicated for me to figure out. Yeah. So that's cool. So they can go onto the website, type in what? How many
cases of demand you think you're going to need, how many cases of, Avion cockroach gel, and I'm thinking about, getting more into mosquitoes, so maybe I'm doing like multi-packs that we have for mosquito, things like that. And then it'll spit out like what level you'll be at, what your estimated rebate would be based off of these purchases. You can export it. You can make it like a PDF and you can send it to your local distributor, and it's basically an order. There's your sample order. Wow. There's your starting order to get into the program. We've got sheets that if you're not sure what's a good order to get in, that gives you like, hey, I'm wanting to do just ants and cockroaches. Here's products that we would recommend for ants and cockroaches. It gets you in right at that base level. It's good for getting up to the next level as well. So if I'm sitting a few $100 off of the gold tier, I'd go pull one of those orders, get that, and it jumps me up. And now I'm getting the benefits of the extra. So that little bit of an extra spend kind of gets me all the savings. And again, you get it all year long.
You know what? I remember when we first started 13 years, or not 13 years, in 2013, 11 years ago.
Yeah.
Of trying to figure out what products we were going to use. It was like trying to pick out your ice cream at 31 flavors if you've never had Baskin Robbins before, right?
Yeah.
So it was kind of a little bit complicated. And like I said, I mean, Nick's been our guy for like a decade. Mm-hmm. And so Nick came up and met with us, and he helped roll out our product lineup. Mm-hmm. And when you're first starting out and you're trying to figure out, okay, because there's way more to figure out than just what spray am I going to use, right? You're trying to figure out, okay, well, what AI is going to work for my location, for these pests. And when it comes time to rotate my product, I know I can't just rotate I've got to rotate active ingredients, or excuse me, mode of action. I can't just rotate active ingredients. And so having an expert in the industry.
A lot of people don't think so. They think if it's just a different name on the product that I'm actually doing resistance management and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's really
no, it's not. In fact, So I think I actually did a course on that on the Bug Bucks Plus. But yeah, Nick came out. He helped us out. And he actually got us, was it called something different back then?
Pest Partners?
Pest Partners.
No.
Has been that.
It's been that.
Yeah. So he got us on that program, and when you're building your pest control company, it's not only about running a tight ship; it's about running a smart ship. So whatever resources you have that are available to you, if you're just kind of trying to wing it and just fly by the seat of your pants, then you're losing money, you're losing time, you're losing resources.
Yeah.
And it can really make it difficult. Pest control margins are usually pretty big. That's a good thing and a bad thing, because on the good thing, you can make money being a pest control company, but on the bad side of that, you can have holes in your ship and not know it, because your margins can be pretty healthy.
You can be leaking a lot and not really realize it. Or I'm with you.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah. A lot of the times, especially when I end up having conversations with people from Syngenta, right? It's a lot solution oriented, which, I mean, I think it speaks to the culture of the company, and it also speaks to the character of guys like Nick. But those conversations, it's always, hey, tell me about your business. Tell me about what you guys are dealing with. Let me show you how some of the products we use can help solve these problems. And I also like that you guys mentioned, companies that are getting into new lines of business. I thinking about getting into mosquitoes, or, what can we do for this type of pest? And guys like Nick, and I'm sure everybody else on the Syngenta team, is looking for ways to provide solutions to services that companies might not even offer yet. They haven't even thought about, which is really cool. And it's kind of fun because, Syngenta is starting to become a little bit more synonymous with solutions, right? And it's always innovations that you guys are coming up with. And I wanted to pick your brain on that. What innovations are coming down the pipeline? What are some of the things that you're excited about right now?
Full of those.
Yeah.
I make the jokes. Eric asks the questions.
So an anecdote before that, right? Because I think that, you talked about Nick, and yes, Nick's amazing, right? But, we do have 8 other sales reps across the U.S. and everything else like that. Steve Jobs said once that innovation is what really distinguishes leaders from followers, right? But, he believed that not because he thought that innovation was about creating like the next iPhone or the next, product, right? It was a culture that he established at Apple. And really, for Syngenta, that we try to embody that, right? And so innovation isn't just, an investment, because we spend, several billions of dollars in the larger, on the ag side, into R&D every year. So we're definitely committed to it, but it's our mindset towards solutions, towards innovation, really, that I think separates us. And honestly, we're one of the few manufacturers that's really in the active ingredient, creating new chemistry, new modes of action game anymore, because there's been so much consolidation in the industry and things like that. And there's not that much going on. So Syngenta's still doing that. And so if you were in Denver, you would have seen we had some, we were talking about a new active ingredient we are calling penicillin. So that's on the roadmap, definitely, hopefully coming out next year, probably latter half of next year. So we're very excited about that. But innovation for Syngenta doesn't have to be a new chemical in a bottle, right? Innovation can be lots of things. Pest Partners was just that, right? 10 years ago, we were thinking about how we could do it differently, because while we were successful, we were not successful as we wanted to be when it came to those types of programs. And so we did it different, and I think it's worked out really well for us, right?
Yeah.
Another way to do that too is, even simple things like packaging, right? So, most everybody has, tilt and pour bottles, or squeeze and measure bottles. So that's something that probably wasn't there, 8-10 years ago. That was definitely something more recent, right? One thing that we came out with recently as well is there's we had a lot of customers that were really interested in larger volumes when it came to perimeter sprays, right? And so they were buying competitive products that were in like 30-gallon drums. And we've done that before. We have experience with that, and we do a lot of bulk packaging and things like that on our ag side. But it's kind of hard with the pumps. The pumps are really
messy.
Yes, they leak and require maintenance, and it's not.
And then the golden question is, what the cuss do I do with this drum when it's empty?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, you got to call somebody. You got to wait.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the thing.
Or they say, well, just triple rinse it. I'm going to triple rinse a 35-gallon drum.
Where am I putting this rinse aid at?
Yeah.
Right.
You can spray that around somebody's house, but I'm not sure which one you want to do.
Well,
right?
okay. So you know what? Little fun fact. The alleyway behind our shop. Guess who's on the other side? Guess who our shop door faces across the alley?
I probably could have looked. I didn't pay attention.
It's
the Washington State Department of Ecology.
Department of Ecology. I want to say EPA, but yeah, it's Department of Ecology. So, can you imagine if they've got a security cam out there, and they see us rolling a drum up and down?
Well, it's funny. Like I probably live maybe 15 minutes away from like the state trooper training facility in North Carolina. It's in Statesville, right?
Okay, yeah.
And so you can tell whenever like the last class has come out, because they're just like all the way around they're pulling people over left and right? Yeah, so I imagine the same kind of thing, right? Like, the class just got out and they've got people just looking around, just,
Technician spills granule outside his truck and he's like, sweep it up real quick.
Yeah.
Well, every time they've got like a disaster response vehicle that they park there, and like whenever it's coming to and from in our parking lot, like my pulse shoots up a little bit. I'm like, oh, don't stop here, and we've never had a problem with them. But still, it kind of gives you the heebie-jeebies for a second.
No, the one in that we have, I think our saving grace is that we're the only unit in this block that has a hose bib. So a few years ago, they came and they're like, "Hey, do you mind if we use your water?" And we're like, "Yeah, whatever you want, guys. Whatever you need.
Anything you need."
Yeah. Okay, so back on track. So Syngenta has what's like a pony keg.
Pony keg.
Right?
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it. Right?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so we call it a drum, but yeah. So instead of having...
Depends on what part of the country you're in.
Exactly,
guess,
right.
Okay.
I'm not sure what kind of stands you could do off of ours, but I mean, I'll leave that to others to figure out, right? But so it's 10 gallons, so it's a little bit smaller than, the 30s, right? So it's easier to move around and things like that. But the really cool thing is no pump, right? So it takes we have an impeller that you can hook up a household drill to, and that will mix the product. And so once it's mixed, you put it on its side, and it's gravity fed, just like one of your washing machine liquids that you pull out.
Lemonade bucket at the company picnic.
Right, exactly, same kind of idea, right? Yeah. And so you fill up your whatever you want to do. If you want to fill up like little service containers, if you want to do pre-mix into like two gallons or something like that to put them on your truck, you can just kind of do it ever how you want to right there.
Oh, so, man. That's brilliant.
So whenever you think about innovation, when you talk about like the mindset of Syngenta, that's kind of what we really kind of get behind. Right?
Well, on the PCO side, if you go into really any pest control company's shop or their warehouse or whatever, how many freaking bottles, empty bottles that haven't been triple rinsed and punctured, do you have sitting in a bin?
Yeah.
Right. And you can train your technicians 1 billion times. Guys, triple rinse your containers, put the rinse aid in your sprayer, puncture it, and throw it in the garbage. But what do? They don't do it. So so you're saying you can reuse the same bottle over and over
So
again.
one of the things that we offer, is we call it a service container.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's EPA allows for what's called a service container label or a secondary label that you can apply to the bottle, so it can be filled up and used, right, and you can reuse that bottle.
Oh,
right?
okay.
So it's different. It's labeled a little different than the product that we would sell in a bottle.
Okay.
But it's because of again,
you got to have the label on the bottle.
Yeah. Well, you got to have the label with you.
Oh,
to do
right.
label. But we can. I don't want to get into EPA regulations because I will get out of my area very fast here. I know enough to be dangerous, but you just have to have the label with you, which is why you could look it up on your phone or something like that.
Right. So, or you got your MSDS.
Yeah.
Or
same thing.
What do they call it?
It's SDS.
SDS.
Yeah, they took the M. They dropped the M off.
They dropped the M.
Yeah. They heard Marshall was coming around.
Yeah, they're like, Marshall, we
got to get rid of the M. So,
Don't want to give them too much credit.
Well, that's actually, it's pretty cool because, as you're saying, like, innovation isn't always just new MOA or AI. Like, the technicians, and it just always never fails. They'll take the pathway of least resistance, or like they'll take the pathway of convenience a lot of times. And, as pest control owners, we're trying to really make sure that we can adhere to a standard and adhere to the law and make sure that those technicians aren't putting us in a tough spot in case somebody from the Department of Agriculture decides to stop by for a quick visit. And what's cool is that you guys are looking into the operations of pest control companies, and you're taking a peek at that and saying, okay, how do we make this more conducive? How do we make it easier on the technician? How do we make it easier on the PCO to use products and do it in a way where it's easier for them and it's in adherence to the label, which is awesome. So I love that side of the innovation you guys are bringing in.
Yeah. When you're looking at a topic like how do we make pest control easier for PCOs, for pest control company owners, what are some of the other things you guys are looking at? What's in the pipeline for making life easier?
So, I mean, another thing, so you talked about smaller companies, and so, larger companies, they may have a, entomologist on staff, or have, somebody that's done it for 40 years that has seen it all, done it all.
Alphabet soup behind
Right,
the name.
exactly.
Yeah.
And they can write the protocols, and here's, what everybody's going to adhere to and things like that. But if you don't have that, one thing that Syngenta offers is we have a whole suite of secure choice protocols that are based off of, not just Syngenta and proven, but not Syngenta opinion, but proven through third-party university cooperators protocols. So, like, the best example is mosquitoes. So back, in 2013, whenever Zika went crazy, and everybody was worried about that, the opportunity for mosquito went through the roof. I think everybody remembers that, right? Yeah. And so, one of the things that we did is we came up with a protocol that was, it's an adulticide with demand, right? But also include an IGR. We use Archer, right? And so we came up with how you could do it. If you want to do 60-day spray, you could use those two products in this conjunction, and we would guarantee it. And it's not guaranteed because we like our products and we'll stand behind our products.
Right.
We went out and proved that it actually kept the
data driven.
Yeah, it was data driven. Absolutely. Right. Great way to put it. Right. So you put it with some other like IPM kind of protocols and everything around it. And then we stand behind it. And so here's everything you would need to do mosquito work. Right. And so we were also really smart. And I talked about a multi-pack. We put, a box that had some demand and some Archer, and it'd do like 80 finished gallons. Here's your whole solution for it right here, that you can just go buy one, right? Yeah. And so we have that, but we have it for cockroaches, spiders, fire ants. I mean, almost everything, right? And so again, they're our products, obviously, but whenever we don't have something that really fits in, we suggest alternatives and everything in a lot of these protocols too. Something that on our turf side we do. I mean, probably hundreds of. I don't want to even know. But it's a good way that we help support people too. That again, we understand not everybody has 3 PhDs on staff like we do, and so they help us write from a marketing standpoint, right? Help us write something that makes sense and everything.
Right, protocols.
That's repeatable, reusable, and everything. But most importantly, tested out there.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, especially like scorpions, another one out here, right? So we have one for scorpions as well.
Yeah,
right.
Well,
which is really cool.
in the West, but southwest.
Southwest, yeah. Well, yeah. Well, I was thinking West Coast. See, because North Carolina, everything's west, right? But yeah. But like that, from here is Southwest. But it's smart because you think if you're controlling scorpions, so you just do a pyrethroid spray around it. You come back every 21, 30 days or something like that, right? Yeah. Well, ours offers a granular bait, not because of the scorpions, because of their food, right? So not down the food population, which not all the scorpions are going to go somewhere else to try to eat. Right, so you get the perimeter spray, right, as well as a granular that gets rid of crickets and things like that too.
Oh man, that's rad.
Yeah, I'm not that smart. That's why we have people that do that for us, right?
Right,
So,
but the smart people know how to find the answers from the smarter people.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's why
I like that.
That's why you're on the show here with us. So
There you go. Well, I love the, obviously, and maybe a shameless plug here, because Jake did a course on bugbucksplus.com about SOPs and SOGs. Because we get that question a ton in our Facebook group, which is, hey, like, what are your guys' protocols for X, Y, and Z? You name it, right? And pest control owners that are asking other pest control owners, like, hey, can you share what your protocols are? And these guys are from different markets. They have different backgrounds. They might have different pest pressures. And so these PCOs are trying to do the best they can with whatever experience they can glean from other people. And Syngenta is taking it a step further and actually doing the research, getting the data, and then providing it to these PCOs specifically based on the markets and the pest pressures. And then even more than that is they're saying, hey, we don't want you to just focus on the pest you're dealing with, but let's talk about the contributing factors and conducive conditions to those pests and then see if we can solve that problem too. So, having, like you said, having people on staff that their primary position is to look at those types of things is great for any pest control company. But having like access to a resource like that from someone who's not on your staff, that you're not necessarily having to pay for a PhD, right? That's killer. So maybe for some of these PCOs that are interested in that, how do they gain access? What pathway do they do to actually get a hold of that resource?
Yeah, so I mean, everything I talked about is on syngentapmp.com, our website.
it's just easy to access.
Just easy access. There's a whole section on secure choice, which has all these protocols, has some other things. We have some calculators for, what a retreat would cost if you were trying to compare products, or we also have mixing calculators for some of our products, because, all the concentrations are different, right?
Right.
So if I'm
you
going
read that part of the label and you're like, I don't even know what that means. I'm just going to...
I tell you what,
48
anytime I
ounces
do
per
it, it's a
gallon.
really big spreadsheet. That's all I know is it takes a lot of math to get that done
yeah.
right. So you can go there. You also, on our site, you could find a rep. If you're not sure who your local rep is, you can find your local sales rep. Our sales reps are very versed in all this stuff too. It can probably clarify anything as well if needed. We have our tech managers. We have 3 of them on staff. They cover the entire U.S. And those would be the resources. But you can find anything on our website that we talked about.
Man, a resource like that is huge. In full transparency, when we first started, I should start another podcast called When We First Started. Jeez Louise. I bet if you went through all these podcasts, there's like 1,000 of them. But when we first started, I knew a lot. I knew a lot about pest control, or I thought I did. But I'd come mostly from the sales side, because I'd worked for other pest control companies for 9 years, 4 or 5 different companies. But I was mostly on the sales side. But even on the sales side, I wanted to know as much as I could about what I was selling and what they were doing, right?
Right.
But when we started, my knowledge level was like a fraction of what it is now, and less than it should have been to go out and start. And it's really funny, because the pest control world, it's one of the most heavily regulated industries, right?
Yeah.
Applying pesticides. But for pest control companies, for people to go out and treat, that's not heavily regulated. So there's a million ways that you can go out with the same product and use it, which means that there's a lot of ways that you can misuse that product. So, the cool thing is that when we look at our Facebook group demographic, it's so cool to see that there's so many of these PCOs that are coming into the group that are guys that are just starting out. Sometimes it's like husband and wife teams that are just starting out, and maybe they sold pest control door to door for several years, and they're like, hey, I'm gonna go start my own company. Well, shoot, how do I do a wall void treatment for odorous house ants? How do I do that? Well, if there's a resource that's super easy to access, you go and you find that, and all of a sudden you're creating protocols and SOPs for your company that are like top tier You're getting pointed in the right direction for the right products, the right mode of action, the right active ingredient. You're getting pointed in the right direction for the right mix ratios, the application methods, the equipment. I mean, all of that stuff.
You've read these protocols. It sounds like, because you're like hitting like all the talking points.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
Well, you know what? I feel remiss because I have written these protocols for my own company, and if I'd known that there was a resource where I could have gone to get them, I could have saved myself a lot of time.
Jake's over here reinventing the wheel. Not a problem.
Yeah. I'm like, if only there was a place where I could go to get all this stuff. So that's awesome. So all you have to do is go to syngentapmp.com.
.com.
Okay.
Secure choices up there at the top. If you're interested in pest partners too, there's a whole section for that as well. There.
Dude, that's awesome.
So, yeah.
It's just really cool when you come across manufacturers, and obviously the more educated that PCOs are about how to provide a good service and what products to use and how to use them, the better things get for everybody. But I've always been really impressed by the quality level of the educational content that you guys have. Whenever we have, whether it's at a conference or if they come directly to us and they're teaching us about a product, we're doing CEUs or whatever the situation is. And actually, we've had a few people that have actually done some courses for us on BugBucks Plus.
Just filmed some. We're filming some today. We're filming some today.
Yeah. So that's going to come out here shortly, and the quality of that education, I think, is just top tier. I was doing an interview at Pest World, and the question was, what do I think gives the industry like the biggest risk? Like, what's actually the problem in the industry that could provide the biggest risk long term? And my answer was uneducated PCOs. Guys who are just taking guesses at what products to use and how to apply and where to do it, and more product equals more dead kind of stuff. And you guys are actively making sure that these PCOs are educated and they know what products to use and how to apply, and that just makes the whole industry better. So I truly appreciate that. And I wanted to know, obviously, it sounds like the website is the best resource for all these guys to go to. And then, of course, we've got that stuff on bugbucksplus.com. And then if they reach out to their kind of local regional guy, it sounds like that's their best chance of getting access to a lot of this content if they have any questions.
Yeah, I mean, I would say for the questions, you can get at, you don't need a person, it's not like we're going to give you the magic password, right, to get into the website, right? But
secret handshake at the door.
Yeah, exactly. But if you need help explaining, or like, okay, this wasn't clear, I'm actually this works fine, but I've got a box elder bug. I've got a question about that. There's nothing like on box elder bug on I heard y'all talking about on your podcast. So
yeah.
Hence, we just call them stink bugs in the South, but
yeah.
But yeah, we don't have anything, but you could talk to your local rep and we can help with those things as well too.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, Marshall, this is, Jake, you go ahead.
No, I just want to ask one more thing. So, it's really, really great to have somebody, on the podcast who has had such an extensive experience over so many years, 2 decades working for Syngenta. What changes have you seen in the industry from when you started until today?
Okay. Yeah. Good one. The regulations are a lot harder now.
They're harder now.
Yeah. EPA, getting things through EPA is more difficult. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It probably is a good thing. But it requires us to be better at what we do. Sometimes it's not as science-based as it has been in the past, but that's okay. I still think it's good for.
Kind of like more politically driven, maybe, or
yeah. But I mean, and I'm just being transparent, right, with that kind of a comment. It's just harder for anybody to get.
I'm not going to get in trouble, am I?
No.
Okay, all right.
I mean, I don't know. We'll see.
EPA comes knocking on Syngenta's door. Hey, so we were listening to this random podcast, and
EPA's got some other things they're probably worried about right now, to be honest, with the new management coming, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's probably one of the biggest things. I also think, I mean, this is again a good thing for the industry. Nothing really driven from EPA. It's a lot more targeted now than it was 20 years ago. One of you talked about kind of like spray more, kill more kind of a thing. It's more of like a, broadcast kind of application rate, industry back then, and things like like an ant gel or a cockroach gel, very targeted, that you would use in these very specific situations, wasn't even heard of, right?
Yeah.
And so I think you want to see more of that too, where it's much more of a targeted application, more prescribed to what you're trying to do versus spraying something and hoping that I kill the 75 different flavors that might come around it as part of it. So that's probably one of the bigger things that I think also y'all would have to tell me if you would agree with this comment, because this is more of like a armchair quarterback, but I think the way that you market to your customers is significantly different than it was then, because you're trying to get rid of the the exterminator kind of vibe, right?
The Delbert McClintock.
Yeah.
Even though he's my favorite character, he's not the best face for representing the pest world, right?
Yeah. And so I think that's changed a lot, which is good for the whole industry, right? The way that pest control professionals talk about what they do and why they do it and everything is much better than it was back then. So, I mean, off the top of my head, I would say those things. I'm sure I'm missing others. What would y'all say to that?
Oh, man!
Did you notice I used y'all? So
I did. You almost, I almost said it. In fact, I actually heard myself when I said tobacco. It felt natural, just rolling off the tongue there. I think Eric and I talk about this quite a bit on the podcast, and we talk about this with other PCOs. When we first started, I mean, my humble beginnings were in the Central Valley in California. Yeah, that's where I started in pest control, and then up to Idaho, and then I was in Texas, and then back in California. And so, one thing that we have really seen a big shift in is a shift in collaborative efforts, I guess we could call it. Okay. It used to be that, especially in Boise, when we worked for a company in Boise, and there were a handful of other companies in Boise, and it was like everybody was like guarding their precious, right? It's like a bunch of Gollum pest control companies guarding their precious, or they're hoarding their Colonel's 11 secret herbs and spices. Right. Don't want to share their secrets, and that's how it was. But we're noticing that is transitioning. Our good friend Ryan Goen says that we compete at the bottom, we collaborate at the top, and so we're seeing a lot more of that. And that's actually like if Bug Bucks had a mission statement, if we had vinyl letters on the wall, it would be that our aim is to eliminate that kind of competitive mindset that hampers all of our growth, and work on having a more collaborative, you can say it for me?
Collaborative.
Thank you. Yeah.
You got it.
That kind of environment, where everybody can learn and grow. And if you watch on the Bug Bucks Facebook group, that's happening. Yeah. Like that's that mentality, that culture, and so we're seeing that shift, and that is a huge thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And what you mentioned also about the way that we market to consumers, especially in the Pacific Northwest, it's weird because people want the bugs gone, but they don't want to talk about the bugs dying. You know what I mean? Especially with like rodents or like anything that's like an actual thing with four legs. They're like, oh, is there a way that you can just encourage them to leave? And it's like, no, not really, right? And especially, you look at
the granola on the other side of the river is especially crunchy.
Yes,
over there,
100%. And it's interesting when you look at some of these markets, especially on the western side. You've got California, Oregon, Washington, and some of the additional policy changes and regulation that has kind of come down the chain from the EPA. And you were saying yourself how difficult that is now, and so we're having to adjust how we appeal to consumers, because sometimes, especially the public opinion on product and what exterminators, pest control companies as exterminators do, drives some of the legalities of these products, right? And you want to hope that what's really going on is decisions that are made by people who have PhD at the end of their name, right? It's just not always the case, because, people that sit in these seats for the public are elected by the public, and their opinion matters. And so as pest control operators, I think it's actually really important that we've been changing how we market to consumers, because it's not just about putting out products that are going to kill everything, right? It's kind of like you were saying, more specifically targeted products that are designed to, naturally degrade in the environment, that can be reapplied, that don't have unintended effects. You reduce secondary poisoning and all these other things, so that we can be a little bit more responsible. And then for the PCOs that do it right, we're contributing to actually less restrictive regulation. Because if we can show the public, hey, you guys are trusting us to make good calls and good decisions, that changes the perception. It changes some of the other stricter regulations, and it kind of works its way down the chain. But that's a very long answer to confirm on that. But that's one of the things that I think about a lot when people talk about regulation. Is it's not just on that side of the industry, it's also on the actual applicator side, making sure we're responsible too.
So totally.
Yeah.
Marshall, is there anything else that's on your mind before we wrap up?
This conversation just, I think we're all like piggybacking off of each other.
Yeah.
Two things, right? Your comment about, the community aspect that you see now is, what I love about our industry. I love what y'all are doing here. I love hearing whenever you bring people from your Facebook group on and they talk about what's working for them and things like that. Yeah. It's what's great about our industry. It's why I don't ever see myself leaving. I never thought I'd be in pest control.
Yeah.
But I love it. I really do. I really do. Two, Eric, some of the stuff you were talking about kind of resonated. And I'll do one last plug for Syngenta, because I think this is something that whenever it's like Pest Partners, maybe people have heard of it, maybe haven't, right? So we have an entire line that's called Avion, right? We have cockroach gel, ant gel. Most people have heard of it. Yep. Yeah. So one of the really cool things about Avion is its mode of action. So Avion uses a meta-active effect when it comes to killing.
Wait, say that again. Meta-active effect.
Okay. When it comes to killing insects, right? And so it's not, indoxacarb itself is actually not insecticidal. It requires the insect to ingest it in some way, and in its gut, its mid-gut, it cleaves the molecule, and the cleaved molecule is now insecticidal, and that's actually what kills the insect, right?
Diabolical.
I know, right? It's really cool. I mean, and so how do you discover that? I have no idea, right? I don't know how you end up with that, but that's how it works. And so when you're talking about targeted and, better for the environment and things like that, Avion's got a really good profile when it comes to that because of its low manual toxicity. I can't say that word. You got to say that one for me. Yeah. But I mean,
we'll edit that in post.
Yeah, exactly. But it's a really cool product, and a lot of people don't understand why it works as well as it does and why it's so targeted and like it is. So what you were saying, Eric, just kind of pinged in my head on that. So
Love it. There we go. Syngenta with the innovations again. Surprise, surprise.
That's great.
Well, Marshall, this has been an awesome episode. And I know that you're a busy guy, and you guys are out there bringing a lot of value to the industry. We'd love to have you guys back, 6-12 months, pick your brain a little bit more. You guys are always doing awesome stuff. And of course, we want to say thank you to everybody who has been listening in. If you guys have a coworker or a manager or an owner who could benefit from listening to this episode, and based on the content, I know that you guys do, the best way to say thank you to us is to share this episode with them. If you haven't joined the Facebook groups yet, go find the groups and join. It's Bug Bucks Plus. Lots of information and great connections there. And if you have a topic you want discussed on the show, drop it in the group. As always, this episode is brought to you by Bug Bucks Plus, the #1 training and education platform designed to help you build and scale your pest control company. Visit bugbucksplus.com to sign up and start building today.
And don't forget to subscribe.
Thanks again for listening in, and until next time, keep building those pest control companies.
You're listening to the Bug Bucks Podcast. Hosted by Eric Bassett and Jake Claus.